The story of the White Bluff Screamer and Werewolf Springs, how one town had two monsters. White Bluff is a small town of Dickson County in Tennessee, like really small. The town was initially a Civil War Union Army encampment and later was an iron forge. With a population just north of 3,000 people, everyone knows each other, and White Bluff is so quiet of a town that, nothing really ever happens there. That being said, as we all know, small, quiet towns are often the weirdest, and White Bluff is no exception, because that's where the White Bluff Screamer lives and where Werewolf Springs resides. The White Screamer haunts the White Bluff area, often terrifying hikers and hunters who stumble upon it. Even drivers have had experiences with this strange creature. A misty form seems to appear and a bizarre figure screams like a woman in great distress. Those unlucky enough to hear it can only listen for a matter of seconds before they are driven completely insane. Those lucky enough to escape have returned with non-believers, only to find a spot of charred grass where the figure had once appeared. Now, there are a lot of theories from the local townfolk about what exactly the White Screamer is. Some do believe that it is indeed a woman, some others say it's a banshee, others say that no earthly creature could make that sound, claiming that the White Screamer is an unearthly apparition that wanders the bluffs aimlessly. But there is one thing that every resident from White Bluffs agrees upon. If you hear the White Screamer, you will go insane. If you see the White Screamer, well, you're dead. In the early 1920s, a young man built a small home and farm on the bluffs with his wife and 7 children. They thought they had created the perfect place to raise a family. But on occasion, they'd wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of a blood-curdling scream. Things got so bad that his children would be inconsolable, too scared to go to sleep and refusing to do so. When the man could no longer handle what the late-night screams were doing to his family, he decided to take matters into his own hands. One night he headed out carrying his rifle. He climbed the nearby hills where he had first heard the sounds, but found nothing. Everything was silent. For the first time in weeks, there were no blood-curdling screams. Deciding to give up and go back home, he finally did hear those awful screams. Unfortunately, they were not coming from the bluffs. They were coming from his house. The man ran as fast as he could back to his farm, but it was too late. The screams he heard were those of his family, and now their bodies laid strewn all over the cabin, bloody pieces scattered everywhere. And just then he saw the bizarre figure in the white mist, went insane, immediately put his rifle in his mouth and pulled the trigger. Their house and grave can still be found in the hollows of White Bluff. But that's not the only horror story to come out of Dickson County in Tennessee, because right next to White Bluff, basically a neighbor to the White Watcher, is an area simply known as Werewolf Springs. Just 5 miles from White Bluff is the area known as Werewolf Springs. The legend of the Werewolf Springs began when a circus train passing through Dickson County in the late 1860s. The train derailed and some of the animals escaped. Among the escapees was a half-human, half-wolf creature who was exhibited under the moniker the Wolfman of Borneo. Circus employees caught all the other escaped animals, though the Wolfman was nowhere to be found. A couple of years later, 2 locals traveling on a nearby road found themselves being stalked by a large creature. The 2 men, a local landowner and a hired hand, attempted to outrun the creature, but it caught up with them and the duo split up and fled into the forest. The creature chased the hired hand, and the landowner was forced to hear the man's screams and cries as he was torn apart. The hired hand's body was never located. A mob of locals formed from nearby farms and towns to bring justice to the dreadful creature. Near the springs where the duo had encountered the beast, the mob led a live goat to a clearing where it was tied to bait the monster. Extinguishing their torches and lanterns, the posse waited for the hungry creature to make its appearance. The prowling creature eventually appeared, the group opened fire, and quickly lit their torches and lanterns to see if they had bagged their quarry. The clearing was empty. The creature, goat, and 2 members of the posse had vanished into the thick night air. Terrified, the posse ran away and didn't try to pursue the monster ever again. Later, a big game hunter attempted to kill the creature of Werewolf Springs. Setting himself up in a nearby cabin, he immediately heard howling in the distance. That night, the hunter began to hear the creature outside of his cabin. When it appeared to pass by one of the windows, he aimed and fired. The gunshots only served to piss off the creature, and it broke down the door. The hunter fired more, but it only seemed to anger the beast more with every shot. The hunter emptied his chamber of his gun, but the beast caught the hunter, dragging him by his feet into the forest. The hunter was never seen from again. So that's 2 places in the same county in Tennessee within 5 miles of each other that have stories of horrible monsters wreaking havoc on the area. Would you live there?